buy when there's blood in the streets, even if it is your own. It's a famous investing quote, and it's been transferred to Wall Street now, with the streets meaning Wall Street. And it's definitely saying that I always kind of think about when we kind of get in this situation, because it's a lot different when you're in this situation and you're having stocks down so much. I mean, I think probably a lot of people watching this video are growth investors. Certainly my portfolio is probably about 50% growth, and I certainly know people that are 100% in growth stocks. And definitely right now it's a tricky time. These are the tricky times as investors, and these are the times where it's a big test. It's a big test because I think the big thing with being an investor is not that how intelligent you are, it is actually controlling a lot of emotions, because the emotions, when you go in up in the stock market, everything seems so easy, but the real tests do come when we have downtrending markets. And that's when you kind of realize, okay, the stock market is a great way for making wealth, and especially if you've got patience, but the big challenge does come in these red days, because these red days will test you as an investor, how much belief you have in a company, how emotional, how you can disconnect your emotions as well. I generally have a rule where I don't check my stock market portfolio that much. I probably check my stock market portfolio probably twice a week. I hardly have a full look in my portfolio. Even when every so often I'm kind of thinking about position changes I will make, and buys I might make, sells I will make. I try, even when I do that, not to look at my whole portfolio. I just try and blur everything out and get onto what I want to look at, and just solely look at that position. And I do that in the bear markets, I do that in the bull markets, and I never emotionally get attached to how much my portfolio is up, how much my portfolio is down, because at the end of the day, when I'm investing into these companies for the long term, I kind of go, okay, this is my game plan for where this company will be in the next 2 to 5 years. And until that point of when it comes to that point where I sell, I just try not get hung up on the prices. Every so often, I will have a quick scan through everything to just kind of catch up on how everything's going. But I try not, day to day, hour to hour, ever look in my portfolio. So I'm never emotionally attached to these stocks, and I always think about, okay, this is where I'm buying and this is where I'm selling, and I wait to that point of where we get to. And at the moment, it's a tough time. I've been having a lot of think about the current growth stock situation, especially with how it feels like a really tricky situation, because I think it's the first time we've ever had this test since March 2020. But the really strange thing about this test that we're having right now is that it's not a stock market crash. When we ever look back at this point of view in history, it will never be referred to as stock market crash. It's all these growth stocks that are being hurt. But if you look at the indexes, the indexes are doing very well. The Dow's 52 highs, the S&P's 52 highs, but it just doesn't feel like it right now. It is a very tough time. And my thing that I was kind of having this think a little bit earlier about this, and I thought, we have had a good run. 2019 was 2020 was a very good year in the stock market after the CV situation, and even 2019 was a pretty good run as well. So we have had quite a few good years, and I think there has to be a bit of a balancing act. And normally, the thing is, when the stock market goes up, the growth stocks move up with it, and it go even higher. When the stock market goes down, normally these growth stocks go lower, and that's just a bit of thing that you got to have if you have a few growth stocks. But it's just so weird to see. I've been thinking about this whole situation. I just have to say, it's I've been in the stock market for 5 years now, and I've never seen anything like this. I've never seen a big, massive disconnect from the stocks. And don't get me wrong, I was thinking the other day that the valuations on growth stocks did go quite high. There was a lot of growth stocks bringing so many valuations forward, trading so far ahead. Sometimes they do deserve to do that. There's no way that a company that is putting in 100% revenue growth could be the next big massive company, could be a 100 billion company, or even a $1 trillion company in the future. It should be trading down at a P of 10 or something. It's never going to happen. But I've just never seen a situation where there's just such a disconnect going on. And I generally don't know. I've been trying to think. I wanted to come into this video and say oh, this is the situation, but I generally can't actually put something on of like this is why it's happening. It's definitely like totally for me. I can't put anything on it. My only thing that I definitely know and will say right now is that there's definitely something going on with the big funds. The big funds are the only people that have the ability to move the stocks this much, and they're selling. Now, eventually that might creep into the real retail investors. Eventually, what happens in this situation, this is why not everyone lasts in the stock market, because it's emotionally a challenging thing. You know, it is a great way to make money, but this is why everyone doesn't do it, because there's points where people do get scared out of this situation, you know. Some of you guys that have been here for a while, you might have been through a lot of situations like this and come out the other side and kind of got a bit more of like, okay, I know that great companies will recover. You know, some of you guys might have been through that already, but honestly, like, it's a bit, I always try to put myself back at the beginning. I always try to put myself back when I started investing. And honestly, if you've never been through some situations like this where you have stocks that go down like day after today, it's actually really tricky to get that past that emotional point of dealing with them drops. You know, I think as soon as if you've been through this situation, you kind of get a bit more belief. Every time you go through a drop, you know, you get a bit stronger emotionally and go, I know it comes back. But honestly, if you kind of invested in, you know, January, February, you know, you're probably thinking, what the heck have I got myself into right now? And, you know, that it's definitely a tricky one. And the thing as well, as I was thinking, you know, valuations were quite a bit back then. But now I look at some companies and I'm thinking, you know, there was some companies that were like story growth companies that would just, you know, no revenue or, you know, 100 million revenue trading like a 10 billion valuation or something. There was a lot of these story companies burning through a lot of cash, and you know, a lot of them kind of got way too hyped up. We got way too much in the bull market, and we was always due a bit of a pullback. But generally, I'm looking out now and I'm thinking there's just some amazing growth companies, like future $100 billion growth companies. You know, even potential $1 trillion companies in like the next decade. They've lost half the value, and that's just mind blowing to think that there's companies out there that have like lost half the value. And I look at some stocks and I think, like, I looked at DraftKings today and I thought someone's actually just sold that company at $45. It was nuts. And like I say, it's eventually, I think, like Wall Street, I think there's a lot of Wall Street selling off. There is, because to sell off like that, there's big money being there. But you know, if it sneaks into retail investors, you know, there's only so long a few retail investors that, you know, lasted in this situation and go, right, that's it, I'm moving out. And that's kind of where I kind of thought about it today, you know. And hopefully today I've got a few things to go through, and hopefully, you know, I think the last poll I did, a few of you guys requested that if I could just talk about growth stocks again, and I will do, because, you know, I'm always here, like, you know, when the stocks are going up, I'm always here. I'm always posting videos, and I'm not one of these people that post like, "Oh, look, I'm making all these gains here," and showing off. And then next thing, the stock market starts going down, and it's like, "Yeah, I told you not to buy that stock. I told you not to buy these penny stocks." You know, I'm always going to be here with the stock market's going up, and if it's going down, I'll definitely be here. I might be a little bit quiet because I might be looking what to buy, and I might be a little bit quiet, but I will still make videos whether the stock market is up or whether the stock market is down. So, growth stocks, absolute bloodbath at the moment. I thought there was a good title and to start for that quote as well. By the way, smash the like button. We are so close to 10,000 subscribers, so I think we're in the last 100 now. But yeah, buy when there's blood in the street. These, like I said, it's the most tricky times as an investor to put up with emotionally, but generally these are the times where it's easiest to make the money. You know, when they get down to these valuations, it's just so easy to make money. You bring your average down and that gives you more and more upside. You know, you can go down 20-30% on a company, but when you invest into a company, you can make 100, 200, 300, 400%. And as well as that is, you know, if you buy a company at like $50 and it goes up to $100, you make 100%. If you can average down to like a $40, and it goes to $100, you make 150%, and that slight little difference is how you maximize what's going on here. And as long as you've got a long-term outlook, you know, you put the odds in your favor, you can make money. And as long as you're not kind of like thinking you want to get rich over a week period, there's plenty of times where I've bought in dip situations, and it really does maximize the chances you do have. And funny enough, I actually thought I'll just go on about one story here, which is Greg's. it's a funny one because I wanted to talk about this one as well, because this was a real tricky situation that we had with Greggs. Greggs was a company that I bought in the CV dip, and it went down a lot. It went down a lot, and it slowly started making recovery, and then literally 3 months after the CV, it went even lower than the CV did. And me, people that were in the Discord at the time, was just looking at this company going, how is a company that's actually back opening again, putting in revenue again, peak of the pandemic, we didn't know how serious this was, is this going to be, we didn't actually know if it was like the biggest thing since the plague, how serious it was, and it's gone lower even though it's back operating, and we kind of knew that the virus was, okay, it's going to be horrendous for the economy, but it wasn't, going to be massively deadly as what we first thought. It was still terrible, don't get me wrong, but it was, we had a bit more of an understanding. And Greggs went even lower, and I was down like 30% on that position, and it was like, where's the bottom? We just didn't know where the bottom was, and you don't in these situations, but you just keep averaging down. Eventually the bottom comes. The best thing as well is sometimes that it just flushes out the sellers and it just drops absolutely huge. But the funny thing is, I thought I'd talk about this one because Greggs actually this week put in some amazing results, and within a year back up 80% on that company. And that was a company that was literally dropping day after day, going lower and lower below CV situations, thinking, where is it going to drop? And it was a horrible situation, down 30%. You look a year later, up 80% on that company, and it just shows you how quick it can change. And that was just the advantages of buying on a dip, and it was just the situation was like, how low is this going to go? And I thought that was a good example of one that's definitely changed what looked so different only a year ago, and you look at the situation it is. And it just leads me on to the point of, great stocks go up. If you buy great companies on a dip, the share price isn't reflecting the company. If the company puts in great revenue growth, if they're growing profit, or if they're going to grow profit, if they're going to be a massive company, they go up in value. Investors will come back in, and definitely at the moment growth stocks are out of favour, but if them companies still keep performing, they will go up in value 100%. So yeah, as long as you're picking great companies, they will go up. And I'm trying to pick out, and for me, I'm trying to pick out like the 5 best opportunities I see here and buying them companies. And very much like how Greggs was like 12 months ago, it was a company that just kept dipping, and you're like, how's this even going this low? Great companies. Eventually Greggs, only this week, trading update, absolutely amazing. Share price is recovering above 50 now, above 52 highs, all-time highs, and that just shows you. Now, I guess the $1 million question is, how low can it go? I generally, I can't tell you. I've been trying to think like, how low could this seriously go? And I thought, well, even the thing is like, we have the indexes that are like 52 highs, and these growth stocks have dropped a huge amount. Like, let's not forget, there's so many growth stocks that are down like 50%, like they've lost half the value already within like 2 months. And I thought, well, if the indexes go lower, could these actually go even lower? And I thought, they could, but there's just so many sellers that have come out already. I don't know how much lower these can go. So I guess, how low could they go? Potentially if the indexes do drop off quite a bit, maybe these could go lower. But in my opinion, we're already sold out that much. I don't know how much lower we can go, So I can't really give an answer to this, even though I think a lot of people are saying, how low could these go? But yeah, it's a tricky one. I mean, personally for me, I don't know how much lower they can go, but as long as they do go lower, I will just keep averaging into this company, just like how this, and I won't time the bottom, because as long as you've got a decent average, then that's okay, and you will make money. Like, I didn't try time it. So often you can try time these situations, and then quicker than what you can buy back in, boom, the hedge funds are in there, pre-market, the stocks are recovering so quick. And that's something that you can't do that much as a retail investor. But yeah, for me, I'm just kind of like, happy to say, I know I have my belief in my companies, and I know that I think they're great companies, and they will come back into favour, and the money will come back in. And like I said, this at the moment is just, in the stock market, you are going to have tests. And the test will bring rewards if you can stick it out. And when you look at like the S&P 500, the S&P 500 is like that. But what you don't see when you zoom out is that in periods, it does go up over time, but there's periods where it looks like that. You know, not exactly perfect like that, but you know, there'll be high points and there'll be high points where it drops, and there'll be low points, and there'll be challenges in there. You know, even at some point in that situation, you probably even have points where it goes like this, and like that. You know, there's always going to be them sort of situations where it puts in really big highs and stretches too far, and there'll be points where it goes too low, and you know, those are good opportunities to buy. It's just part of the game, and part of the game is that, you know, sometimes you've got to realise rotation happens. Some things just don't make sense in the stock market, and that happens. You know, for all these, you know, there's companies in here, these growth companies. There's some growth companies that have just put in amazing earnings, and they're going down, and it just doesn't make sense. And you know, that's just sometimes how the stock market works. But what will happen eventually is they will come back into favour. The money will come in. You can't tell me all these companies that are sold off at the moment, they're all terrible companies. And you know, there's some absolute gems in there. Sure, there's some companies that have been, like I said, there's a few story companies in there that have gone up a little bit at the moment. They've gone in with these growth stocks at the moment. But in that pile, there's some amazing growth companies. And it's just part of the game, and this is like the whole stock market thing is like, it's a really good way to build your wealth, it's a really good way to make money. Well, this is why not everyone actually does it. Not everyone does it because it is a little bit of a test, you know. It can be times of that, it's amazing when you're up there, but there's times where, you know, you go see a massive rotation, you know, the stocks. Thing with the stock market, it can change so quick. Just how it changed so quick from February going up to them amazing highs, and how quick it went down. Same will happen once again. You'll go from them lows to them highs once again very quickly. The stock market changes all the time, and that's why you can't always get caught up with what the stocks are doing. And that's why always when I think, well, the stocks are going up, okay, let's be a little bit fearful. When the stocks are going down, okay, let's be a little bit greedy now. And that's the thing you've always got to be, you know, careful of. You know, you got to kind of detach your emotions. But yeah, this is one of the tests you will have. It's the first test that we've had since March 2020, and you know, I'm sure many of you guys that are watching this video, I'd say about half you, probably see the results of how that worked out for you. And there'll be plenty more. You know, this won't be the last one. There'll be other times where it will rotate, things will go up, things will go down, especially down, and it is a test of the emotions. But yeah, it's definitely a challenging time, but it's the times that you can make the most money for sure. So hopefully that helps you, for you guys that wanted a growth stock video. A little bit shorter, I think, today. I've not even checked how long it's on for, but a little bit shorter, but just a few things that I thought about, and just, you know, a few little stories there about, you know, the perks of actually buying in these dips and making more money. But hope you enjoyed it. Anyway, smash the like button, subscribe if you're new. I probably will do either a tattoo chef or a boohoo video tomorrow anyway, guys, but hope you enjoyed it anyway for you guys that wanted it, and I'll see you in the next one.